Welcome to the deep dive. I'm just really glad you are joining us today.
Yeah, this is a big one.
It is, because we're looking at something that affects literally every single one of us.
Absolutely.
Whether you are happily married, actively dating, or completely single and just trying to figure out why your last relationship imploded, this is for you.
Right. It applies across the board.
Exactly. So today we are pulling from some absolutely fascinating excerpts by Figs
A
O'Sullivan.
really incredible source.
He is an LMFT, a licensed marriage and family therapist with 15 years of clinical experience. And get this, he has sat across from over 3,000 couples.
3,000.
3,000! I mean, that is just a staggering amount of time spent watching people argue.
It really is a paradigm shift when you look at his work.
Yeah.
Because as I was going through these notes and, reviewing the underlying clinical data, what struck me immediately is just the sheer volume of observational evidence he has gathered.
Right, the sample size is huge.
Exactly. 3,000 couples is a massive sample size of human interaction. You aren't just getting theory here. You are getting a front row seat to the actual mechanics of why human beings collide.
Why we clash so intensely.
Precisely. In that time, he developed what he calls the Empathi Method. And his work fundamentally deconstructs why traditional relationship advice completely fails when we need it most.
Which brings us to the mission of today's deep dive. We are going to uncover why the actual content of your arguments with your partner is completely irrelevant.
Completely irrelevant.
I know that sounds wild, but we are going to map out the biological blueprint for turning those agonizing relationship-ending fights into actual pathways for deeper connection.
Which is so needed.
But before we get to the biology, we need to talk about the foundation of O'Sullivan's method. You were looking at the data on this. It's called emotionally focused therapy, right?
Yes, emotionally focused therapy, or EFT. This is the clinical backbone of his entire approach.
And it's not just a trend.
No, not at all. It is not just some flashy concept. EFT is currently the highest rated approach for couples by the American Psychological Association.
The APA backs it.
Strongly. The data is incredibly compelling. In studies where couples completed just 12 90-minute sessions of EFT, 86% of those couples showed significant improvement.
Okay, let's unpack this, because if EFT has an 86% success rate, it really makes you wonder what the other 99% of traditional therapists are getting wrong.
Right.
What are they missing?
Well, what they're missing is what O'Sullivan calls the illusion of content.
The illusion of content.
Yeah. Every couple walks into a therapist's office or, just sits down at their kitchen table and they want to talk about the content of their fights.
The specific detail.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The parking ticket, the unwashed dishes, the specific tone of voice used at dinner, or...
The text message that didn't get a reply fast enough.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
They are completely convinced that their problem is communication. And the clinical experience shows us, point blank, they are wrong. Those arguments are just red herrings.
I hear you, but let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure.
In the moment when I am staring at a sink full of crusty plates that I specifically asked my partner to wash 3 times, it really feels like it is about the dishes.
Of course it does.
How do we square that? How is that a red herring?
To understand why it's a red herring, we have to look at the why beneath the anger, which brings us to attachment theory.
Okay.
We basically have to break this down to evolutionary biology.
Huh.
Hundreds of thousands of years ago, if you were isolated from your tribe, you died.
You starved.
You starved or you were eaten. Human beings are biologically wired to depend on their attachment figures for literal survival.
So it's life or death?
To your nervous system, yes.
Yeah.
So when your emotional bond with your partner feels threatened, say, because they ignored your request to wash the dishes, your nervous system does not care about logic.
It just reacts.
It fires a primal biological alarm that screams, I am losing you, and if I lose you, I am in danger.
So to my ancient lizard brain, a harsh tone of voice or an ignored chore isn't just an annoyance.
No.
It is a profound threat to my survival.
Exactly. Your partner isn't just being lazy about the dishes. Your nervous system is interpreting their lack of care as a sign that you do not matter to them.
Wow.
And if you do not matter to them, they will abandon you. That is why the fight escalates so quickly.
I want you to really think about that for a second. Think about your last really silly argument. The one that escalated way out of proportion over something completely ridiculous, like how to load the dishwasher.
We've all been there.
Was it actually about the plates, or was there a deeper biological terror of losing connection driving your frustration?
That's the real question.
Because when that biological alarm goes off, we start doing what the methodology calls the Waltz of Pain.
Yes, the waltz.
And you walk us through how this dance actually works in real time.
Gladly. The Waltz of Pain is a negative interactional cycle that couples co-create and has 3 specific steps.
Okay, what's step 1?
Step 1 is a negative perception of your partner.
Got it.
Step 2 is a reactive emotion based on that perception. And step 3 is a protective action.
So perception, emotion, action.
Right. You take your 1, 2, 3 step, your partner takes their 1, 2, 3 step in response, and suddenly you're dancing this terrible rhythm of misunderstanding.
Just stepping all over each other's toes.
Exactly. You are both just trying to protect yourselves, but you end up pushing each other further away.
This sounds incredibly theoretical, though. What does this waltz actually look like in a real relationship?
Well, Figs actually shares a very vulnerable, real-world example from his own marriage to his wife, Teal, to illustrate this perfectly.
Oh, I love when experts share their own stuff.
It really helps ground it. He explains that early on in their relationship, whenever he felt financial shame or felt like a failure in his career, his perception was that he was inadequate.
Okay.
His reactive emotion was deep shame, and his protective action was to withdraw emotionally.
Just shut down.
Completely. He would sit right next to her on the couch, but mentally and emotionally, he was entirely gone. A total stonewall.
And obviously, his wife isn't just going to sit there and ignore that. How did Teal react to him shutting down?
Her nervous system registered his sudden emotional disappearance as a terrifying abandonment.
The biological alarm.
Exactly. So her perception was, he is leaving me. Her reactive emotion was panic, and her protective action was to pursue.
So she went after him.
She would get louder, she would demand engagement, she would poke at him, not because she was a controlling person, but out of sheer biological panic.
Right.
But of course, as she pursued and demanded answers, her pursuit made him feel even more inadequate, so he withdrew further, which made her pursue harder.
A vicious cycle.
They were both just trying to survive the perceived threat, but they were actively making it worse. That is the waltz.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the way our nervous system reacts to that vulnerability isn't random.
Not at all.
The source material maps this out using something called the compass of shame. When that vulnerability gets too high, we don't just sit there and say, I'm feeling sad.
I wish we did.
Right. Instead, we launch into one of 4 distinct survival reflexes. We either attack self, attack other, withdraw, or avoid.
And what is absolutely crucial to understand here is that these are reflexes, not conscious choices.
They happen instantly.
Yes. But in the heat of an argument, they masquerade as personality traits. We look at a partner who is criticizing us and we think, wow, they're just a fundamentally cruel and critical person.
When in
reality, their nervous system has flipped into the attack of the reflex because they're terrified of feeling unimportant.
So my partner isn't actually a jerk. They are just in survival mode.
Exactly.
But O'Sullivan takes this a step further. He says these terrified reflexes manifest as what he calls protector parts. What exactly is a protector part?
A protector part is essentially a survival strategy that you forged in childhood to keep yourself safe when the world around you felt unstable.
Like armor.
Yes, custom-made armor. If you grew up in a chaotic house, you might have developed a protector part called the fixer.
The fixer.
Where you learned that managing everyone else's emotions was the only way to stay safe.
Wow.
Or maybe you developed the bull, a part that charges in and takes aggressive control so you never feel helpless.
And what about the ones who joke their way out of things?
That would be the seducer, a part that charms, jokes, and deflects to hide any underlying wound.
That makes so much sense.
So when you are fighting with your partner over the dishes, it isn't the two of you fighting. It is your childhood protector part colliding with her childhood protector part.
Wait, hold on. Are you telling me that when I jump in to logically solve my partner's emotional problem, my fixer personality isn't actually a superpower?
I hate to break it to you.
It's just a terrified childhood reflex.
Precisely. You aren't solving the problem. You are deploying armor so you don't have to sit in the discomfort of their pain.
Ouch. That is deeply confronting.
What's fascinating here is that all of these concepts, the waltz, the compass, the protector parts, they live entirely in the body, not just the mind.
It's physical.
Yes. When that attachment bond is threatened, your autonomic nervous system floods your physical body with cortisol and adrenaline. The prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain responsible for logic, reasoning, and all those fancy communication techniques you read about, literally goes offline.
It just shuts down.
The blood literally moves away from that part of the brain.
Which means all that advice about using an I statement like, I feel frustrated when you do X, is completely useless when you are in a state of fight or flight.
Complete useless.
It is a biological impossibility to be rational.
Exactly. You cannot outthink a biological alarm system. The prerequisite to any kind of repair is that you have to learn the physical signature of your activation.
The physical signature.
Yes, before you even open your mouth to argue, your body knows you are threatened. Maybe it's a tight chest, or heat flushing your face, or a sudden, overwhelming urge to run out the front door. You have to recognize that physical signal and create a real pause.
And to be clear, we aren't talking about a 3-hour stonewalling session where you ignore your partner to punish them.
No, not at all.
We are talking about taking 30 seconds to literally just breathe and slow down your heart rate.
Yes. You have to slow down the music before you can change the dance. You have to get the prefrontal cortex back online.
So what does this all mean for you in the heat of the moment? Once you've recognized your chest tightening and you've taken that 30-second pause to breathe, how do you actually engage without starting World War III?
Good question.
The method uses an acronym called RAE, RAVE. Can we break down how this works?
Yes, the ARVA technique is beautifully simple, but requires incredible discipline. First, R stands for reflect.
Reflect.
You simply reflect back what your partner just said without adding your own spin. For example, you felt alone and overloaded when I didn't wash the dishes.
Okay.
Next is A for accept. You accept the reality of their experience by saying, that is true for you right now.
Even if I disagree with the fact.
Even if you disagree, it's true
Yep.
for them.
Wow.
Then V for validate. That makes sense to me why you would feel that way.
Validate. Got it.
And finally, E for explore. You ask, what would help right now?
Let me push back on this because this sounds really hard to do when I'm annoyed.
It is incredibly hard.
What if I just skip the reflecting and validating? What if I just say, I see you're mad about the dishes. I'm sorry. I will go wash them right now. Doesn't that solve the problem faster?
It solves the dishes, but it does not solve the biological panic.
Oh.
If you try to jump straight into problem solving while your partner is still biologically terrified that you don't care about them, you are just going to trigger their protector parts all over again.
Because they still don't feel safe.
Exactly. They will feel dismissed. The golden rule of this method is that co-regulation has to precede thought. You must do rave to soothe their nervous system before you attempt to solve the logistical problem.
Okay, that makes so much sense. You have to prove they are safe before you fix the sink. So how is this method actually applied? Because reading about Ravel is one thing, but doing it is another. I know the author is very upfront that one-on-one therapy is the gold standard for this.
It is the gold standard because in his office, a therapist uses a technique called reflexive participation.
Let's explain, like I'm 5 here. What does reflexive participation actually mean? Is he just repeating what they say?
Not at all. A lot of therapists sit back like referees, keeping score of who said what.
Right.
Reflexive participation means the therapist steps directly into the emotional field with the couple.
Oh, wow.
They track the exact second. Shane hits a partner's nervous system like noticing when a husband's jaw clenches or a wife looks at the floor, and they intervene in real time to stop the waltz of pain before it accelerates.
And the text gives a really intense example of why that level of clinical intervention is sometimes necessary, right? Specifically with affair recovery.
Yes. An affair is described in the literature as a catastrophic attachment injury.
Catastrophic.
It completely shatters the two core biological beliefs we hold about our partners. I am your priority, and I am enough for you. In those cases, the methodology requires what is called one-way repair.
One-way repair. Does that mean only one person does the work?
It means the betraying partner has to learn to tolerate the immense heat of their own guilt without collapsing into their own shame or getting defensive.
That sounds incredibly difficult.
It is. They have to provide a missing experience for the betrayed partner.
What does a missing experience feel like to the person who is cheated on?
Normally, when the betrayed partner expresses their pain, the betrayer gets defensive, which just causes more trauma.
Right.
A missing experience is a moment where the betrayer stays fully present, drops their armor, and says, I see your devastation, I caused it, and I am here with you in it.
Wow.
The betrayed partner finally sees their spouse truly impacted by their pain rather than running from it. And critically, for this to work, there can be zero ambiguity or lingering contact with the third party. The nervous system simply cannot heal if it senses the threat is still active.
That is heavy, deep, incredibly difficult work.
It really is.
But let's pivot to the reality of the situation for a moment. One-on-one therapy of that caliber is expensive. It runs anywhere from $250 to $400 a session.
Easily.
And it usually takes months to rewrite these cycles. Not to mention, sometimes a partner flat out refuses to go to therapy.
Which is very common.
That is why O'Sullivan created the Empathy Method Masterclass.
Right, and it's important to look at the value proposition of a self-directed system like this. It's an online platform with 16 self-paced modules and a companion workbook.
Okay.
It is priced at $297, which is essentially the cost of a single therapy session, and it has a buy one, get one free structure so your partner gets their own access.
I don't want to sound like an infomercial here, but what I find fascinating isn't the price point, it's the strategy behind who this is for. You mentioned people whose partners refuse to go to therapy. How does taking an online course by yourself help your marriage if your partner won't participate?
That is the beauty of treating a relationship as an interconnected system. Think of a mobile hanging over a baby's crib.
Okay, a mobile.
If you pull just one string, the entire mobile moves and reorganizes itself.
Oh, I see.
The same is true for the Waltz of Pain. If you do this work alone and you learn to stop pursuing when your partner withdraws, if you change just one of your steps in the dance, your partner's reflex has to shift.
It can't keep doing the same steps.
Exactly. They cannot keep doing the same dance if you have stopped playing the music.
That is so empowering. It means you aren't helpless just because your partner won't go to a clinic.
Precisely.
And to make it even easier to figure out what your specific dance steps are, there is the Empathi Discovery Quiz. It is completely free, takes about 3 minutes, and it identifies your exact pattern.
That's very insightful.
It tells you if you are fundamentally a pursuer, a withdrawer, or somewhere in between.
And there is a brilliant application of this quiz for single people as well. The author suggests a technique he calls method acting.
Oh, I love this part. If you are listening right now and you are single, think about your last ex. How does this work for them?
You take the quiz as yourself first to see your own baseline patterns. But then you take the quiz again, but this time you method act from the perspective of an ex-partner.
Or even a current crush.
Exactly. You answer the questions exactly how you think they would based on their behavior. The system then generates a relationship report that maps exactly how your specific interacting patterns collide.
That is amazing.
It's a profound way to look back and understand why the exact same arguments kept happening with entirely different people.
What I really appreciate about this and what separates it from other massive generalized relationship programs out there is the ongoing integration.
Yes, the follow-through.
Once you take that quiz, the system doesn't just hand you a PDF and wish you luck. It sends you ongoing, personalized email prompts that are calibrated exactly to your unique cycle and your specific protector parts.
It keeps the work active.
It keeps it active in your inbox, reminding you of your blind spots.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the data reveals a truth that I think will shock a lot of people.
What's that?
And honestly, it might bring a lot of relief. The ultimate goal of all this work, whether you're doing it in a high-end therapy room or working through the masterclass on your couch, is not to stop fighting.
Wait, really? We do all this work, we figure out our protector parts, we learn the Rive technique, and the goal isn't to never fight again.
Exactly. O'Sullivan admits that he and his wife, both trained therapists who know this material inside and out, still miss a tune.
They still fight.
They still trigger each other's childhood wounds. But they have fundamentally redefined success.
How so?
Secure attachment is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of repair.
The presence of repair.
Yes. It is knowing that when things inevitably go sideways, you have the tools to find your way back to each other.
That makes me think of the incredibly poignant story the author shared about failing his clinical licensing exam early in his career.
Oh, that's a powerful one.
He was absolutely devastated, literally sitting on the floor of his house in despair. Normally, his seducer-protector part would have rushed in to crack a joke, deflect the pain, minimize the failure, and hide the wound from his wife.
Right. Put the armor on.
But instead, because of this work, he just let himself collapse. He stayed in the pain. And Teal looked at him and said, that was the first time she truly saw him. The real him, underneath all the armor.
That is the core takeaway of this entire methodology. Secure attachment isn't about being perfect or having flawless communication skills.
No.
It is simply the willingness to be seen inside your pain. It is dropping the armor so your partner can finally reach you.
That is just so incredibly powerful. So to bring it all together for you listening, The next time you find yourself bickering over unwashed dishes, or a slightly annoyed tone of voice, or a text that took too long to answer, remember that communication issues and bad behavior are not the root of your relationship strife.
They're just the surface.
An activated nervous system and a terrified attachment bond are. Whether you start by taking that free 3-minute quiz, diving into the masterclass, or stepping into a therapy room, identifying your specific waltz of pain is the absolute first step to finding true connection.
This raises an important question. The source material tells us that our childhood protector parts were brilliant survival strategies to keep us intact when the world was unstable. If that's true, how might your entire relationship change tomorrow if you started viewing your partner's harshest criticisms not as a vicious attack against you, but simply as the desperate, terrified reflex of a child crying out for safety?